let's jump straight into it. I've done some calculations and you'll see the difference between the fiat way of thinking about things and the Bitcoin way of thinking about things. So based on the demographics of, we know roughly what age you guys are, the majority of people that watch this show, we're going to say the age is 40. We're also going to assume that you want to spend $100,000 per year. So how much money would you need to retire by age 40, withdrawing $100,000 a year after? So you'll need to calculate a quote safe withdrawal rate and determine a retirement savings goal accordingly. A common rule of thumb is the 4% rule, which suggests that if you withdraw 4% of your retirement savings annually, your money should last at least 30 years, adjusted for inflation. This means you need around 2.5 million to safely withdraw $100,000 per year. But the question that I want to get to is, how much Bitcoin do you need to retire by 2028? So let's assume it's 2.5 million. And again, that's kind of depressing, isn't it? I think it's depressing to a lot of people because I would say the vast majority of people don't have $2.5 million laying around, especially by age 40. So you'd be like, you know what? I give up. I'm just going to go to the casinos and just going to live my life. I'm going to live for the moment, baby. I'm going to live for the moment. What is this long-term thinking? This long-term thinking is a scam. I'm going to live for the here and now. I'm going to go to Disney World now because I'm never going to be able to afford a house. Well, that's life on a fiat standard. Life on a Bitcoin standard is a whole different story, and it's full of hope. It's full of opportunities. Is full of peace and prosperity. So let's jump straight into it. So first, let's make a couple of assumptions. First, what is going to be the fair value of Bitcoin by the year 2028? Well, no one knows, but we can use the power law. That's been, you know, the famous stock to flow type thing of this cycle. Maybe it's more accurate. Apparently it is. I'm not a mathematics person, but the mathematics guys say that this is the model that you have to go by. So according to the power law, Bitcoin's fair value by 2028 should be $302,000, and the bottom price should be $127,000. So, okay, $300,000 Bitcoin. That's not bad. So I guess the math would be dividing 2.5 million divided by 300,000, and it would require 8.3 Bitcoin. Thing is, that's also really depressing. I think a lot of people don't have the ability to accumulate 8.3 Bitcoin. 8.3 Bitcoin today is roughly $500,000 or 600,000. So, but I think people underestimate the ability for Bitcoin to compound over time. And this is where Jimbo's calculator comes in. And Jimbo's calculator makes all these calculations a lot more optimistic because most people, like I said, don't have $2.5 million laying around. So the way that Jimbo's calculator works, and please put some numbers down in the live chat so that me and Opti can play with this tool. First, you have to decide what your stack size is. So we're going to start with the stack size that we put in the thumbnail, which is, oh, did it freeze? Yes, it did. Let me refresh the page. Here we go. Come on, Jimbo's calculator. There we go. It's working now, I think. There it is. Okay, so you're going to put a number. .2, and then it's going to give you, oh, here we go. What is wrong with this thing today, man? It's bugging out.
Moon broken.
When Moon has broken, man. Too many people are using it. That's not cool. All right. Let's refresh it one more time. and let's stick to the whole numbers. So let's start with 1 Bitcoin and 100,000, which I think is we'll leave the defaults because this is being a little bit buggy today, unfortunately. But let's decrease the inflation rate because I think it is a little bit high. Or annual Bitcoin appreciation rate. So I mean, what did Michael Saylor said? Michael Saylor said it was going to be 30%. And then the annual USD supply inflation, I think that's a little bit high as well. Let's make that 3%. And then it kind of changes the conversation. So your personal moon date, if you have 1 Bitcoin and you want to pull out $100,000 and the US inflation rate is 3%, and the annual Bitcoin appreciation rate, which is the one that Saylor's saying. Saylor's saying that this is going to be the average annual appreciation rate of Bitcoin to the year 2045. And it's roughly, he says specifically 29%. So let's go with 29. So if the annual Bitcoin appreciation rate is 29, compounding year after year, if your stack is 1 Bitcoin, if you want to pull out $100,000 in income every single year, and the inflation rate is 3%, your personal moon date would be 2033, meaning you would never have to work again. You'd be able to pull out $100,000 every single year with that 1 Bitcoin. And it has a little chart and everything. So anyways, let's play around with it. Opti, do we have more numbers? We
have change annual appreciation rate to 55. And I'll just add on here and let's do the USD from 3 to what was it? What have people been saying? Like at least 10, go 12. Just because I'm an extremist over here. And I keep everything else the same.
So if the inflation rate is 23% and the annual Bitcoin appreciation rate is 55%, then your personal moon date with just 1 Bitcoin would be the year.
And that's with 23% inflation. That's crazy.
That's with 23% inflation.
All right. Roman said 10 to 12. So do 12 on the inflation rate.
So 12 inflation rate, and it would be 2029 with 1 Bitcoin with an annual Bitcoin appreciation rate of 55%. With inflation at 12%, your personal moon date would be the year 2029. It would be specifically April 11th, 2029. And your stack would be worth 746,000. And you'd be able to withdraw roughly $479 a day. Interesting, right? But I want to get this to, it seems like it bugs out when you do it. Oh, I got it working. Great. Awesome. So let's address the number in the, wow, now you start working. We had to troubleshoot for a while. Anyway, so let's address the number in the title, shall we? Because it's what you guys came for. So in the title, it said, look, is 0.25 Bitcoin enough, right? 0.25 Bitcoin, right? I think it's totally doable if you focus and you put your mind to it and you want to withdraw 100,000 a year. And the inflation rate is 12%, but the annual Bitcoin appreciation rate is 55%. Your personal moon date would be 2033. Man, that's pretty cool. Anyone else have any numbers that want to change over here?
Let's do the annual Bitcoin appreciation rate to, I think Saylor's been saying like 40%.
Yeah, so let's do 40%. And then what about income? Is income at 100,000?
No, what's the average salary again? It's like what, 50K or something?
So let's say it's 65,000, right? And inflation's not at 12%, but we'll leave it there, I guess.
Real inflation is definitely not 2 to 3%.
Okay, so let's put it at 8. All right. So 0.25, you want 65,000. Inflation rate is 8%. Annual Bitcoin appreciation rate is 40. So your personal moon date would be 2034. 2034.
So 10 years.
Yeah, 10 years. 10 years. But let's say you wanted to live out, you want to live large and you want to take out $250,000 a year because you live in Miami or something. Your moon date would be 2040. It's not bad, bro. Not bad at all. And your Bitcoin stack would be worth 4.24. You know what's really interesting too? Like this is roughly where Sailor's prediction is, roughly.
All right, we got some new numbers here, Nico. Do inflation at 9 and do appreciation rate, or as it says right here, at 20.
So appreciation rate at 20. Opti, also, let's put this in the chat so everyone else could have fun with it. Guys, you feel free to use this calculator as much as you want. I'm going to also put it in the YouTube description. You guys could check the link. Okay, so what are the numbers, Opti?
You got it. You got it. Just keep those numbers as they are.
So, okay, so your stack size would be 0.25 Bitcoin. Your desired income in today's dollars would be $250,000 a year. The annual inflation rate of the US dollar would be 9, and the annual Bitcoin appreciation rate would be 20. That's pretty low. Are we going with 20?
Yeah, that's what someone asked for. That's what someone asked for.
2076.
Never.
Oh man. But look, let's do 30, which I think is very conservative. It'd be 2049. So it's not bad. And then check this out. This is roughly Sailor numbers. Your Bitcoin stack would be worth 15 million. Right? So, okay, let's play around with this more. What about 0.5?
Wait. A quarter of a Bitcoin would be worth 15 million, at least to this, in 2045.
That's what it says with an annual Bitcoin appreciation rate.
60 million per coin. Let's go.
All right, so let's play around with this more. So your stack size is 0.5, right? Your desired income in today's dollars would be, let's be a little bit more conservative, would be 100,000, right? The annual USD, let's leave it at 8%. And the annual inflation rate would be, let's do what Sailor's saying. What he says, 29%. So, okay, so your moon date would be with 0.5, just 0.5 Bitcoin, with 100, you want 100,000 taken out with an annual inflation rate of 8% and an annual Bitcoin appreciation would be 29. And your moon date would be May 7, 2024. Boom. And your Bitcoin stack would be worth roughly 2.31 million. Okay, so let's change these numbers more. So let's do 5 coins, right? Annual appreciation is 8. Annual Bitcoin appreciation is 29. I honestly believe it's going to be 40 for this entire decade. I really believe it's going to be 40% compound year over year. And I don't think the inflation rate is 8, but let's just leave it there for the sake of this. If your stack size is 5 Bitcoin and you want to take out $100,000 a year, you got to wait until it already happened. You've already hit your moon date. So that's interesting.
All right, go 6.15 for your stack.
6.15. Okay.
Do inflation at 12 because that's what Shadow Stats is showing right now. That's 12% inflation, and we'll keep that 40% annual increase.
Okay, so that 40%.
So that already happened. That already happened.
No, it's gonna happen. It happens tomorrow, actually.
Let's go.
Wow, it happens tomorrow. It happens tomorrow. So please, guys, drop us numbers in the chat, and we'll kind of plug them into the calculator. You guys could have fun with this. I think it's really, really great. It's called When Moon. It's by Jimbo. It's completely open source, so you can audit the code and all that stuff. And it will kind of allow you to plan into the future, because I know you guys loved the Sailor calculator, but this is the OG calculator. This is the calculator that we've been using for a while, and you guys love these types of episodes. So if you guys have any other numbers, drop it in the live chat and we'll do the calculations for you guys. When you have 2 or 3 block rewards, you've made it. Someone says do 3.7 Bitcoin. Okay. 3.7 Bitcoin. Let's plug it in. 3.7. What about desired income? Do you want to keep it at 100K? Okay. Someone said 0.5. We'll get to you, hodl her.
Hodl her. I like that.
We'll get to you in a second. But let's do this 3.7. So 3.7. Let's be humble. Let's say 75K a year. Let's do 12% inflation, and let's use Sailor's number of 29. So your personal moon date would be
5 years.
5 years. In 2029, if you have 3.7 Bitcoin, you want to withdraw 75K a year. The inflation rate is 12%, and the annual Bitcoin appreciation rate is 10%. All right, now let's move on to...
All right, so we got 0.5 as stack.
Okay.
So
25.
half a coin and desired income at 75. All right, so we got, just keep that, yeah.
0.5, yeah. So
Yep.
0.5 desired income. What is the desired income?
75K.
75K. So the annual appreciation rate. Okay, so with 0.5, you want to withdraw 75K. Inflation rate is at 12%, which I think is a little high, but so be it. An annual Bitcoin appreciation rate is 29%. Your personal moon date would be the year 2043.
So what, 9 years?
2043 is a lot longer than 9 years.
Sorry, that's 19 years.
Yeah. So yeah, interesting. And it kind of correlates with the Sailor one, because Sailor predicts that Bitcoin is going to be like 13 million by the year 2045, and this is saying 5.55. So it kind of gets close to that. So any more 2.1 Bitcoin, or here we go. 2.1 Bitcoin. Let's see, 2.1 Bitcoin. Let's see, withdrawing 100K a year. Annual appreciation rate, your moon date would be 2035. So again, I just want to compare and contrast, right? So I think, 0.5, 0.25, if you're new to this thing, you're new to Bitcoin, I think this is totally doable to get to. Your moon date would be 2050. So, if you are 30 years old right now, 2050, you would be 26 plus 30 is 56. So you'd be 56. You'd be retired. You could literally retire right now. By the time you get to your mid 50s, this is extremely conservative numbers, assuming an annual inflation rate of 12%, which I think is a little high. Assuming only an annual appreciation rate of 29, with only 0.25 Bitcoin, your personal moon date would be 2050, and you'd be able to withdraw 100K a year off 0.25, according to this calculator. Do you guys think we're being a little bit bearish, a little bit bullish? I think this is extreme. Look, if it was up to me, I'll do mine. So let's do the baseline of 1 Bitcoin, right? Let's go with 150K, right? Because I do live in Miami, right? And let's say the inflation rate is 5%, or let's say, like 5%. Let's say the annual appreciation rate is 40. The moon date is the year 2031. Right, with 1 Bitcoin. I mean, that's pretty crazy, bro. That's less than a decade. Less than a decade if you get to 1 Bitcoin. Let's do conservative, Sailors, 2036. So 12 years from now, you'll be able to retire. That's not bad, bro. Well, what does that cost you? 67,000? Now let's compare and contrast that with what we started with, which is the fiat calculation. This means you'll need 2.5 million. Isn't that depressing? Like, the contrasting both, like you'll need $2.5 million in normal fiat land, and in Bitcoin land, you can theoretically, on a conservative side, retire off 0.25. 0.5. That's pretty crazy, which equates to, like, 12K, 20K, 30K, 35K. Like, that's pretty gnarly, dude. And this is why we call Bitcoin hope. This is why we call Bitcoin hope. And again, guys, we put this in the live chat and we put it in the YouTube video, and Opti's going to put it in the podcast description. So feel free to plug in your numbers and see where you end up. But this is why they call Bitcoin hope. because if you move to a Bitcoin standard, everything gets progressively cheaper versus a fiat standard, everything gets progressively more expensive. And here's, I'll drop this last tidbit before we get to the numbers. This is ARK Invest. ARK Invest is Cathie Wood. They have one of the largest ETFs that are publicly traded right now on the NASDAQ. And here are her assumptions of Bitcoin and where Bitcoin could be by the year 2030. And she's basically making the case. She makes a bear case, a base case, and a bull case. So her bull case by 2030 is 1.48 million. Her base case is 682,000. And her bear case is 258,000. I mean, that's pretty effing fire. So I think the TLDR, if you guys are just tuning in, it's probably a good idea to get some Bitcoin just in case it catches on.
Hey, if Bitcoin hits between $160,000 to $240,000 a coin by next year, you're going to want to make sure that that Bitcoin is safe and secure. And the best way to do that is to master your self-custody skills. The number one place that you can find a one-on-one expert and coach to help you do that is thebitcoinway.com. Their experts and specialists will help you to navigate the journey into self-custody, managing your privacy and your cybersecurity, whether you're just managing your own wallets, whether you're running your own node, so that you can maximize the number go up technology of Bitcoin, but also the freedom go up technology of Bitcoin, which is just as important. Schedule a free consultation with their team today at thebitcoinway.com.